8 years later, 150 million in premium, 200 agents, thousands upon thousands of clients. And with what I do in insurance, I get residual income. So with that residual income, I built two brands I'm extremely passionate about.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Annuity Fundamentals. I am your host, Kylie Malat, joined by the co-host, the one and only Mr. Ryan Anderson. And today we have a very special guest and I'm stoked. A true entrepreneur. She told a little bit about her story before we got on and I'm blown away. So I'm excited to spend the next 25 minutes with her. Please welcome Jessi Park. Jessi, thank you so much for joining us. I'm stoked to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited too.
Now, this is an insurance podcast, but that's just one small facet of your life. You own a perfumery company, which is the real passion. You just got back from spending a month in Thailand from learning how to make perfumes. You own Execulux handbags, so you can create designer handbags for men and women. In 2017, you founded Inspired Insurance Solutions, which kind of, I'm assuming, is the way to bankroll all these wonderful things. The dollar bills, baby. But as far as and when we were going through and talking about this, that's not always been your life. I mean, as
Hmm.
far as if we go back to the start of when you got into the insurance business, I mean, things were a little bit different back then. Kind of go back, tell
Yeah.
us the story and how did you get to where you're basically living, checking your dream box off, man, just one bucket list item after another here.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, sure. So fast forward like 10 years ago, even way longer than that. So like I grew up lower income. I put myself through college, accumulated $65,000 in student loan debt. I was a single mom very early on in my life. I married my high school sweetheart, and now I know better because boys at that age are just not mature. So it is what it is. I was a single mom of two kids by the age of 22, and it was just rough. It was a rough life. It was trying to juggle job, taking care of babies, going to school. I started going to night school so I could finish my bachelor's degree. And I went full time while working full time while raising two kids. It was pretty hard. Graduated. And then I was like, I did it. I did. I'm the first college graduate in my entire family for both sides. And I was like, this is it. I made it. And now I'm going to get a good job. And so I went out in the world and I was very surprised that the only job I could get was the one I had, which was an executive assistant. And I'd been doing admin work for like 6 years at that time. And so I was just really disappointed. I really thought that was going to be, the way I got ahead. And so I climbed the corporate ladder. Intermittently, I would take time off because I'm an artist at heart. So like I left work and I started painting and I was like, this is it. I'm going to be an international artist. And while I did sell my paintings internationally, doing the sidewalk art festivals in the hot sun with the tent and the kids, it was just like, this is so then I was like, let me do real estate. So I got my real estate license, and that's hard. You got to build a pipeline for that. So then I went back to corporate. I got a little bit higher paying job than what I had as an assistant. I was actually a marketing director, which is what I went to school for. So I was like, finally, I'm in my field. And I was working there for a couple years. And one day they just called me in and let me go. And I had no backup plan. I had been there for years. Everything that I had done for the company, like I was just so surprised because it I guess it felt like it meant nothing. And so I remember packing up my office and I was crying so hard, like snot was coming out of my eyes. Like it was just horrible. And I had a friend who had just got her insurance license. So I called her up and I was like, what are you doing? And, she told me she was like cold calling people over the phone and trying to sell them health insurance policies. And I was like, that sounds absolutely miserable. And
It
so,
is.
yeah, yeah. So then I did what I had to do, felt like I was starting over again, felt like I was in my 20s all over again. I got on food stamps, unemployment, and I was going out looking for jobs in my sector, which was marketing. That's where I wanted to work, marketing and social media. And interview after interview, like I just wasn't getting the job. And they were, offering, I lived in Orlando at the time. So there were tons and tons of graduates fresh out of college that were willing to work for way less than I was willing to work for. So I was like, let me try this insurance thing. So I got my license in 2 days, which now I know, looking back, that's actually like really fast. Got my license in 2 days, started dialing, and that was the most horrible memory of my life, like dialing these cold leads. And you know, like I just remember I was so nervous to make my first call. I remember like I had the red button that you hit on your phone, and I was like shaking hitting it because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know, what if they yell at me, what if they curse at me. I remember like I had tears welled up in my eyes, and I could feel them like streaming down my face because I just did not want to do it. I wanted to work in my field, which is artistic and marketing and social media creatives and Photoshop and things like that. And so insurance, I can't say is it drove me, like it wasn't a passion to be in insurance. I actually hated it. But one thing for me that I saw was unlimited potential, and I had never been offered that opportunity before. I'd always worked for a salary, and if I was lucky, I got a bonus, but really not. I saw it as a ticket to pull me and my kids out of poverty. I saw the potential for wealth accumulation and owning property and what that would mean for my kids' future. So for me, so then once I learned how to dial, I learned what to say, I learned the products, then I started just really busting my ass and dialing 400 to 600 a day. I still cannot get an agent to commit to that still to this day. Once I figured out and I cut all the things that were holding me back, which was fear of failure, fear of getting cursed out, I realized none of that really means anything if in the future I see home ownership, like buying a home for me and my kids, right? And being able to put them through college, and like they needed braces, like in order to afford even like dental care for my kids, right? To me, it was about that. It wasn't passionate or anything, but I'm passionate about my children. I'm passionate about making a future. So I wrote 1 million in business in 8 months. And then from there, I started recruiting some friends and family, and that 1 million in business in 8 months is still the record that I really would love someone to beat. But then, so now 7 years, where are we at? 9 years, 8 years later, 150 million in premium, 200 agents, thousands upon thousands of clients. And with what I do in insurance, I get residual income. So with that residual income, I built two brands I'm extremely passionate about. So now I get to have my artistic, creative side fulfilled again.
Jessi, holy freaking smokes. Like, if you're listening to this and that doesn't just inspire you and kick you in the ass, then what are you doing? I mean, holy smokes. From start to finish, what inspiring. The one sentence that stuck out to me. Let me try this insurance thing. Let me try this insurance thing. I've tried the real estate. I've done this. I've done that. Let me get into insurance. And I feel the same way. I resonate with you so much. Did I grow when I was 9 years old? Did I think when I grow up, I want to be an insurance agent?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Right? Like, no,
No.
that's not even on the radar. But doing this, how long? So 9 years total in insurance?
Yeah, I got my license in August of 2016. So I got let go in August, and I got my license. I called her up on the drive home with snot running down my face, and I got my license 2 days later. So I technically got licensed in August of 2016. I glazed over the part to where I did flounder for a bit. I did take 4 months to make my first sale. And I was with a captive company. So once I realized that that wasn't a fit, and then I found where I've been at now for 9 years, that's when, and then like it also was a learning curve of becoming self-employed and being my own disciplinarian when it came, you do a lot of things when you first start that you think are working, but they're not
Yep.
money making activities. And so like once I got all of that, I remember it was because unemployment and food stamps only last 6 months. So in Florida, I don't know about other states. So I remember it was like December, and I had made 4 sales, and I'm like, this isn't working. This is absolutely not working. and I was still looking for a job. And I remember, like, if I can just get through this Christmas and in the new year, I promised myself I'm going to actually dial like I need the money because I did. And um, I'm going to see if this whole residual income thing is true. And because I had uplines and stuff, but I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't believe that what they were telling me. I had to see it for myself. And so from that moment on, January 1st of 2017, when I put my head down and I actually did the work. I did the money making activities. Dialing to me, I still hear people say they love dialing. I don't believe you, because if you love dialing, you would have numbers, and you don't have numbers. So obviously you don't love dialing. I can be honest and I can tell you I hate dialing, but I
Hmm.
did it. I did it because I know that was the way to get the people on the phone. The more people you talk to, the more you quote, the more you quote, the more you sell. And like, that concept is so simple, but so many people are afraid to do it. Um, and so I did it, and that's that from that moment forward. So January 1st of 2017, I put my head down. I would work 11 hours a day in between. So I'd get up at 6, take my kids to school. They were in different schools because of their ages. So one would go to one school, one would go to another. I had to be at my desk by 9 a.m. That was my promise to myself. I'd work from 9 to 2. I'd get off. I'd go pick them up. 2 to 6 was my kid time, so I would help with homework, make dinner, etc. And then I'd get back on the phone at 6, and I'd work from 6 to midnight. And that was my schedule for about 11 months. And it
Wow.
didn't take long for me to start seeing results, traction, starting to be able to get caught up in my bills. I remember, so you guys know I accumulated 65K in student loan debt. I still remember the day I logged into Nelnet, and Nelnet's crazy, man, because like you can pay on something for 10 years and it's still there. So like you log into Nelnet and I paid it in full, and that student loan had been haunting me for 10 years, deferment after deferment after deferment, and I paid it in full. And that to me was the most liberating feeling that I had ever had in my life. And then I said, okay, what's next? We need a house, because we had always lived in apartments. So I remember I saved up for my first home, and I mean, I went out. I was like, I want the lake lot. I want I want I want the garage. I want the extra room. I want the loft upstairs. And it just felt so good taking my kids on the tour of like what was going to be our home. And it was just good. Insurance changed my life. It changed everything about it, from the way I look at money, like what I'm able to do now with I have these other companies that are I'm running too. And I didn't do it for being passionate about insurance or sales. I think I'm very transparent about that. I did it for the wealth building accumulation that you can do.
Okay, I've got like 4 or 5 questions here that I just want to go through. I've my
Sure.
little post-it notes. I'm making notes here as we're going here. So,
Okay.
would it be inappropriate for me to ask you how old you were when you lost that job and you took your insurance exam with the two
Yeah,
kids at home?
I was 35.
Okay, so all right, so we're 35, unemployed, 2 kids, single mom. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's where we're at. Now, you said so many things here that I just are fantastic to me. So you did this because on the promise of unlimited income, the potential. And
Hmm.
if you anybody I mean, there's what is a 92% failure rate in this industry, and
Hmm.
the average income is like 60 grand. So a lot of people aren't really tapping into that unlimited potential piece to it. So there is a huge, leap of faith there on that piece for you. And when you were sitting there talking, one of the people that I've known for years that was with my last company, the CEO of that company, he'd always say that it's always amazing to me that everybody wants executive level compensation, but
Hmm.
nobody's willing to do executive level work.
Hmm.
And as far as that, and at 400 to 600 dials a day, that is the most. If you were to give me a definition of hell, that's it right there.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
mean, the dial, the dial, and whether and if you're saying, and from what you said before, you were dialing by fingers on your phone. There wasn't
Oh,
an
yeah.
auto dialer in there.
No,
So I
I've never
mean,
used an auto dialer.
wow.
then the other thing that you talked about said that was that 4 months at the beginning where there was a learning curve there. I mean, I'm assuming you had to learn the industry. You had to learn a lot about Jessi as far as,
Hmm.
okay, what do I need to do to go through and do this? and then trying to find the IMO, the upline that was a right fit for you, your moral compass, your
Hmm.
sales style, the solutions. What is your gateway product? What were you? Was it life? Was it Medicare? What were you trying? What did you sell? Or what is right now Inspired Insurance Solutions? What do you guys? What is your gateway solution?
So we have everything, but I mainly focus on under 65 health insurance private side, not Obamacare. Even though we have all of it, we can do it all, Medicare, Obamacare, life insurance, annuities. We have all that, but I personally prefer under 65 health. That's what I started on. That was the
Mm-hmm.
captive company I was with. One product I don't think is good for anyone to stick with, you know, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
multiple solutions for different problems. And that's what I focus on.
Okay, so the thing about that is it strikes me as people are listening to this that so the under 65 the private healthcare, or then there's the Obamacare, then you've got the Medicare, then you've got the mortgage protection, then you've got the final expense. There are all these solutions that are out there, and depending on what works for you, you can do really well with each of them. I mean, we've had guests on our show that sell all of those and have gone from zero to millions, really learning the process. But you said something in there, and I'd like you to, it would be my last question here, that really struck a chord for me. And that was that you were busy, but you weren't making money. You were busy, but
Hmm.
not productive. Can you delve
Yeah,
into that? What kind of things specifically? Because I mean, as an owner of a
sure.
company, 200 agents, I'm sure you're walking around like, okay, busy, not productive. Oh,
Yeah,
productive, profitable. Walk me
yeah,
through some of that.
sure. So whenever I first started, it was just you know, you are your own worst enemy. So like I would have issues where, you know, I would tell myself, you worked so hard your whole life. You deserve to sit down and watch the news while you drink your tea and your bagel. And then Price is Right would come on. And I love Price is Right. I have loved Price is Right since Bob Barker has been on it. So then I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to watch it until the first Showcase Showdown. And then I want to watch the second Showcase Showdown. And then after that, Wayne Brady comes on with Let's Make a Deal. And I love that show. And it's like you're kind of, while that's on, let me go do laundry. I work from home now, so let me go, you know, handle that. I might as well make myself lunch. I deserve it, right? All the while knowing I need to dial. But instead, let me go online and work on this business card. Let me go online and post on social media. My friend's in town. Let me go have dinner with her. I'll talk about health insurance, right? And so, like, all of these things that you allow yourself to do, that if you had a boss, you would not be doing those things. You would not be doing laundry in the middle of the day or going to the beach because you deserve it, or going out to a 3 hour lunch with a friend because you can talk about your job. Like, no, I had to get real with myself, and I had to get real with, like, what would my boss say if I asked to do this? If this is my job, and I know for a fact that the more I dial, the more I talk to, the more I talk to, the more I quote, the more I quote, the more I sell. What should be my job? Dialing. Okay, so what are the hours? So then I started time blocking. So I have kids. They're older now, so thank goodness I don't have to drive them around anymore. They have their own cars. But you know, I had to take off to go take care of them, and I had to take them to school. So you time block around your things that are mandatory in your life that you have to do. And so for me, working until midnight, yes, my kids were home with me, but they were teenagers then. They were 13 and 15. So like they could, you know, ask me a question if they need to, right? But me working until midnight, to me, it was a short-term sacrifice for long-term dreams. And so, yes, during those 8 months of when they were 13 and 15, I put my head down. I worked at night while they were home. Would I have rather spent time with them and watching TV? Heck yeah, I would have. But I know for now they thank me. Like my son, he's in the military now. He wants to get a new car. I love that I could help him with that. My daughter helped her get a car. I love that next year we're going to buy a house together, me and my daughter, for her. I would have never been able to do any of that stuff on a corporate salary ever. And so I love the sacrifices that past Jessi made for future Jessi's children. So people have to kind of come to terms with their life may not be as cushy and comfortable as they want it to be while they're building their business. But if you can do a short term sacrifice, your future self will thank you. And so that was the mind shift change that I went through that made me realize, okay, if I want something new, I have to give something old up, which it was uh, comforts of, I wasn't a 9 to 5 employee anymore. I was my own boss. And so I had to work past 5 o'clock. And that's something I run into a lot of new agents. They don't dial past 5 or 6. And like you said, like if you want executive level salary, you have to make executive level decisions. You're a
Mhm.
business owner now. So act like it. You get off at 6. Okay, so what? No one at night. I dialed all the time, but I would say I would reach more people during the nighttime when they were off work. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't dial during the day because I reached many people during the day too.
Jessi, holy smokes. Like I'm blown away. I'm sure people listening to this are thinking I need to do better.
Good.
I do fold the laundry. I do fold the laundry in the middle of the
Yeah.
day. I have taken that lunch, right? I mean, independent agents, when we especially independent agents who aren't in a captive, so they're a little more willy-nilly, right? They're thinking they're
Yeah.
having that same conversation. I've so had those conversations with those agents, and it's like, "Hey, do you want to change your life? Then you have to stop doing things that no longer serve you." And I
Hmm.
love that you said that. I had to give up my old habits so that I could be a new person. And it
Hmm.
all starts with discipline. And for you to have some forethought and to say, this isn't working for me. Like, if I want to change my life and I want to change my kids' life, then no one's going to do it but me. And that
Hmm.
takes a real, like, hard look in the mirror to say, I got to change because what
Yeah.
I'm doing now isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
And discipline goes so far and accountability, right? You said, okay, well, I time blocked here and I time blocked here and I kept myself accountable to
Hmm.
myself, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't have a boss. You
Yeah.
said it yourself. You're like, well, if I had a boss, would I be able to do this?
Hmm.
No.
Hmm.
And so many agents get caught up just right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They don't have someone saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And having that internal voice takes practice for a lot of
Hmm.
people to say,
Hmm.
hey, should I be watching The Price is Right now?
Yeah.
Or should I be dialing?
I still want to, but I haven't since 2016 because now I could if I want
Yeah,
to. But it's a slippery slope of,
it is.
I taught myself like massive discipline and I still follow that schedule. Not until midnight. I don't dial until midnight anymore. But I do work 9 to 6, and now I have 4 salary employees and they all work 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. So, um, yeah, it's I still could. Like right now I'm sitting in my living room. You guys know how tempted I am to turn on the TV and watch Prices Right? But no, I'm not going to. So,
Your story actually, one of our business partners, Doug McDermott, he's again a big guy in the annuity space in the insurance industry, and he started
mhm.
back in the 1970s. And very similar story. He was going to play professional sports, got injured, and through a series of events, a family member, a friend said, "Hey, let's try this insurance thing." And he went through and he started working the insurance thing. He had a couple of kids at home. He was married at the time, and he went through and in a matter of 6 months, he'd sold three. No, I think it was like 7 policies, something like that. It wasn't very much. He went from 240 pounds playing weight in football down to about 160 pounds because he said there's only so much food, and his wife and kids ate first. And he literally emaciated himself trying to support his family. But
Mhm.
the same story, a couple of the principles that stuck out to me is that he took 4 to 6 months to learn that process, and he
Mhm.
took the time to go through I kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, and then it was after the first of the year he started. He said it was January 2nd, and then he started to sell, and from then forward he sold a policy a day.
Mhm.
Not average. He said I sold one every day, sometimes more, but I always sold at least one every day that I worked. And then a
Mhm.
few years later, he had the annuity store, which he was able to build that up and sold it to Allianz and whoever it was. But huge story, but it was a very similar thing that he started down there, and his passion very similar. I've got to support and take care of my family, and
Mhm.
that principle that we go through. And what is your why? And you did it for your family, and you very open to like, hey, I want a lifestyle that this will offer.
Hmm.
and it will go through. And you've been able to build a couple of other businesses about that. Let's talk about those. What are your other passion projects? You said I kind of touched on them, but go ahead and tell us what
Yeah.
those are doing. What has the insurance business been able to let you really work on where your heart is?
Yeah. So, my heart is with my agents. But I also started two e-commerce businesses back in 2021 is when I had the idea. 2021, I had been in the industry for, what is that? So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 years, I think almost 6 years. And, with what I do, you build up residual income and
Mhm.
clients and stuff like that. So I wanted to take my residual income and invest it in something that I'm passionate about. I love bags and purses. I'm not like a huge collector or anything, but for me, it's more about functionality. And I was going to a lot of conferences, speaking with Cody and everything. And I went to go buy a roller brief for, to put all my stuff in and carry it. And all the options available to women were boxy and they look like suitcases, or you could put it over your shoulder, but then we have, breasts. And so then it's like cutting your whole chest. Like it's not a flattering look at all. And so I was like, well, how do you build a brand? So I just started doing research on how to build a brand, and I found a company to make a prototype of like a bag that I had in mind. And then I ended up having 10 different bags. And then I was like, let's go a step further. And then I wanted matching accessories for each bag. So like that way the woman carrying it can completely personalize her experience. So maybe she's a daily commuter. She'll choose the lunch tote, the clarity case, and the pad folio. Or maybe she wants to fly, so she would take, the clutch, which is easy access to like documents, like to completely customize her whole bag experience to be perfect for what she does. And the thing that sets Execulux apart is that it's patent pending. I got that approved for the US Patent Office. It detaches from its trolley, and the trolley folds up and can fit inside of the bag, which is new and revolutionary, and that's what sets it apart. So it's technically two bags in one. It's a purse and a roller brief, but the new bag I'm coming out with is three bags in one, because on the back of it has these fasteners, so you can wear it as a backpack, a briefcase, or a trolley bag. That one's coming out next year. So I just love designing them. I love the success stories. Like that clientele is mostly executive women, doctors, lawyers, things like that. I love when they send me pictures of those. They're not cheap. They're not cheap to manufacture, right? They're high quality, durable materials. Nothing else like it on the market, because it wouldn't be patent pending if there was.
Mhm.
The other company is Elysian Parfum, and so, right around actually in 2021, my sister passed away of cancer, my baby sister. So, that's not supposed to happen. And it was probably one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had in my life, like watching that and seeing that. And it just like affected me so much. Like people grieve in different ways. And for me, I'm not a wallower. I can't be. I did allow myself that time, but like it just leads to a very, very dark, depressing time. So I can't allow myself to do that. Instead, I wanted to build something that felt like her and I were still hanging out together. And we both loved perfume. And so one of the last memories that I have with her, the last couple times, like, whenever you're going through cancer, it's like very painful. And so, like, some of the things that brought her happiness was smelling different perfumes. And so I wanted to create a company that felt like her and I were still just hanging out doing stuff together. So I named it after her kids, Evan and Alicia. So it's called Elysian. And when I went to go look up that word, which now it's very familiar to me. I know what it means. I didn't actually know it was a word though, but it means of heaven. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, so that started off with just me not knowing really anything about perfume, just wanting to do something to hang out. And I bought perfume from a perfumer, filled the bottles myself. No real creative passion with that, just really wanting to just feel like I was in touch with my sister. And then as the years went by, I went to go like place new orders to have a custom perfume made. And long story short, I couldn't get a hold of the perfumers. And then one perfumer raised their minimum to 30 gallons of perfume, which is like astronomical. So then, of course, me being me, I'm like, how hard can it be? So then I self taught myself for about a year, and those turned out fine. I definitely had, there was a learning curve there because it's way hard, by the way. It's extremely hard. There's like 4,000 aroma chemicals. Then you have naturals, absolutes, you have proportions, you have dilutions. Like it is actually very hard. And so I needed more clarity on that. So I signed up for perfumery school. I waited, it was a very long waiting list, like 8 months, 8 to 9 months to get in. And so then I flew out to Thailand last June. I learned a lot. I also realized I already knew a lot too. So that was pretty cool. And then since then, I've been making perfumes, and Elysian is going to take off this year. We've already gotten some store contracts. Um, we're in talks with a store in Australia right now. We're already in a store in the Netherlands. So like it's starting to take off and be considered like a top tier level perfume house.
Wow, that's incredible. Jessi, your story is inspiring. Like
I'm also
truly.
crazy. I'm also crazy. So
Well, it takes you a little click of crazy to do what you did. I mean, in 10 years from going to zero to hero, the one word that keeps popping up in my mind as you keep talking is grit. This
yeah,
woman has grit and no quit. I mean,
yeah,
if that's what you want, she wanted a life for herself and she pictured it. I mean, you said it. You're like, I wanted to pay off that student loan and how good it felt. And then the next
hmm
step was, I want to get my kids a house. And
hmm
you have to have a vision for yourself. Otherwise, none of it will work. If you
hmm
don't have a vision for where you want to be and a clear vision of where you want to be in 6 months or a year, you'll be in the same place at the same time. Nothing will
yeah,
change. And
yeah,
like that, having your vision, just you talking about it, shows that it works. But
hmm
you had to put in some action. And
hmm
I think that that's going to be the takeaway from today is people are going to listen to this and say, I'm not doing enough. I'm not dialing enough. I'm not working enough. I don't have enough opportunities. I'm not quoting enough. And this is inspiring because look what you've done for yourself. Not only
no,
do you had one company that you started with, but now you have two more on top, and they're your actual passion products or your
hmm
passion projects. And there are so many of us like that. I'm multifaceted. Ryan is multifaceted, right? Insurance isn't the end all be all for anyone.
hmm
And at least it shouldn't be. You should have goals outside, but let this be a vessel. That's
hmm
why insurance is so beautiful. I think there are more millionaire insurance agents than there are realtors or anything
hmm
anywhere else, but it takes work. And
hmm
so I really appreciate you being on. We're running out of time, but gosh, I could talk to you for hours and I definitely need some info. Our partner Angelique and I, when you started talking bags, I was like, oh, she's my girl. Like as more you were talking, I was like, yes. And when you said for women, what are our options? This ugly suitcase that's like is hideous and doesn't work.
yeah,
You're so
yeah,
right. So you saw that it takes vision. I mean,
yeah,
you saying, okay, well, this doesn't work for women. Okay, so let's get some patents. Let's try something different. And I think
hmm
so many people, so many of us get stuck in the same because we let fear control us.
yeah,
And your story going, I mean, you raising two kids on your own, night school, corporate, and anyone who comes from the corporate world knows how brutal it is,
hmm
especially on your mental psyche. And then going out on your own and saying, I'm going to do it by myself.
yeah,
I mean, bravery and like I'm telling you, grit. And so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us. And I'm inspired. So I know our
oh,
listeners are inspired and saying, you know what? If she can do it at 35, she started over at 35 into
hmm
this and it doesn't, I appreciate you saying it took me 4 months to get the hang of it. Because there are a
hmm
lot of people, especially IMOs out there who say, I can make you $500,000 in 3 weeks. You know, they say something
no,
crazy and
yeah,
it's just like, you're setting these poor people up for failure. So I
yeah,
appreciate you being successful saying it took me some time. It took me
yeah,
some time to get used to it. And so thank you so much for joining us. I know this has been life-changing for a lot of people. It really
Aw,
has. Like, your
Yeah.
thank
story
you.
is incredible. So thank you so much for being here. Ryan and I, we help people level up their game when it comes to insurance and saying, hey, I don't want to just be Medicare or life. I want to get into the annuity space. And so
Mhm.
that's what Ryan and I, and that's our passion, is really to help people get there. And so it resonates with me that you have 200 agents. So I know you feel the same way. How do I translate my life to my agents?
Mhm.
And by listening to this podcast, they'll understand exactly what it took to get there. And
Yeah.
so it's not easy. It is
Yeah.
not easy to be where you're at right now. So I super appreciate you being here. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for joining us.